I want you to meet a man. He's in his early 40s and spends up to 200 days a year with migraines so violent they leave him blind, vomiting, locked in a dark room. His eyes are failing. He can barely read and write, the only two things he loves doing. He walked away from a brilliant career as a professor because his body couldn't take it. He proposed to a woman, the only one he ever truly loved, and was rejected. His friends drifted away one by one. The books he writes, into which he pours everything he has, barely sell. Of one of them, he manages to print only a few dozen copies, essentially for no one. He lives alone in cheap rented rooms in the mountains, fleeing the cold in winter and the heat in summer, because his body can't even tolerate the weather. If there's anyone in the world with the right to hate his own life, it's this man. He has every reason people usually list when they explain why they became bitter. His body betrayed him. Love rejected him. His work was ignored. His friends disappeared. Any modern therapist would look at that biography and completely understand if he sank into resentment. No one would blame him. And that's exactly why what he did next is so disorienting. Because it's exactly this man who sits down in the middle of that ruin and writes the following. My formula for greatness in a human being is AMOR FATI, the love of fate. To want nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity. Not merely to bear what is necessary, but to love it. His name is Friedrich Nietzsche, and that sentence, written by a destroyed man at the peak of his own destruction, is maybe the most radical and most misunderstood idea in all of philosophy. Amor fati, to love your fate, to love, even, the worst day of your life. And here's what I want to do with you in this video. I want you to think right now, just for 1 second, of your worst memory, the one you avoid, the day that split your life into a before and an after. Hold on to it, you don't have to tell me, because by the end of this video, you're going to understand why that memory, exactly that one, might be the most valuable thing you carry, and not in the shallow coffee mug quote way, in the brutal, serious Nietzsche way. Stay with me, because this only fully makes sense at the end. First, a warning, and it matters. This video is not going to tell you your trauma was good. It's not going to say that abuse, loss, illness, or betrayal were blessings in disguise. That's toxic positivity, and Nietzsche would despise that kind of talk, maybe more than anything else. There are pains that have no bright side, and pretending otherwise is a second act of violence against the person who suffered them. What he proposes is something far harder and far more powerful than pretending the pain didn't hurt. So breathe, lower your guard, and come understand what this formula actually says. First, what is amor fati? Fati comes from fatum, fate. Amor fati is the love of fate, the decision to love your entire life with everything in it, the beautiful and the horrible, what you chose and what crashed down on you without asking permission. Notice the word. It's not accepting your fate, not tolerating it, not getting over it. It's loving it. Nietzsche picked the most scandalous possible word on purpose, because he wanted to mark the difference between 3 attitudes toward pain. The first is the resentful one. He hates what happened, spends his life prosecuting the past in an imaginary courtroom, demanding a settlement that never comes. The second is the resigned one. He endures, swallows, tolerates, says, "What can you do? That's life," and keeps dragging the past around like a sack of stones. The third is AMOR FATI, to look at everything that happened and say, yes, not because it was good, but because it was yours, because it's irreversible, and because it's the raw material of the only life you have to sculpt. The Stoics had gotten close to this idea centuries earlier, talking about accepting what's not up to us. Nietzsche takes that acceptance and turns the volume all the way up. Accepting is still too little. There's still a residue of swallowing reluctantly hidden inside it. He wants the whole yes, chest open, the yes of someone who would choose it again. And before you think this is fatalism, understand, it's the opposite. The resigned person stops fighting because he gave up. The person practicing AMOR FATI stops fighting exactly one thing: the past, the only battle that is literally impossible to win. All the energy that was trapped in that lost war becomes free for the only direction where you still have power: the now and the next. AMOR FATI isn't lying in bed and accepting everything. It's refusing to keep bleeding from yesterday's wound, so you have strength to spare for today's fight. Now I'm going to show you, in 5 steps, why this idea changes everything. And the 5th step is where the turn I promised about your worst memory lives. Let's go slowly, because each step sets up the next. First step. Understand the difference between AMOR FATI and toxic positivity, because they look like cousins and they are mortal enemies. Toxic positivity denies the pain. Everything happens for a reason. Good vibes only. Don't be sad. It demands that you lie to yourself, that you pretend the wound doesn't hurt. Nietzsche does the opposite. He demands that you look the pain straight in the face, no anesthesia, no makeup, and say, "This happened. This hurt. This was unfair. And still I say yes to the life that contains it." See the difference in size? Toxic positivity is an escape dressed up as a smile. AMOR FATI is a confrontation dressed up as love. One denies the fact. The other denies only the fact's right to govern you. And that's why toxic positivity weakens you. It trains you to look away, while AMOR FATI strengthens you. Because every time you say yes with your eyes open, you prove to yourself that you can stand to look. There's a simple way to tell which of the two is operating in you. Toxic positivity is in a hurry. It wants the pain to shut up fast, wants the happy ending by next week, wants to skip the hard part. AMOR FATI is in no hurry at all. It sits with the pain as long as it takes, looks at it without blinking, and only then signs off. If your "I'm fine, it's all good" came out too fast, be suspicious. It was probably escape wearing wisdom's costume. And here comes the first discomfort. If you can't deny the pain, and you can't rewrite the past, what do you do with the rage that everything was the way it was? That rage is exactly the subject of step 2. Second step. Identify the most addictive poison of the human soul: the parallel life. Pay attention, because almost everyone lives intoxicated by this without knowing it. After a great pain, the mind creates an imaginary life. The life where that thing didn't happen. The life where you didn't lose that person, where you weren't betrayed, where you picked the other career, where you left the house 5 minutes later. And then the mind makes its cruel move. It starts comparing your real life every single day against that perfect parallel life that doesn't exist. Every morning you wake up in the real life and pay emotional rent to a ghost life. This is what Nietzsche calls ressentiment. The soul stuck looking backward, chewing on the impossible, poisoning the present with the accounting of what should have been. And here's the part nobody tells you. The parallel life is a methodological lie. You're comparing the worst of your real life against the highlight reel of an edited fantasy. In the fantasy, the other career only has the good paychecks, never the bad Mondays. In the fantasy, the person who stayed never ages, never disappoints, never leaves. The parallel life is a movie with no deleted scenes because it never had to be filmed. In that comparison, real life loses every time. It's a rigged card game against yourself, and the price of that game is enormous. Every hour of what if is an hour you were absent from your own life. The resentful person thinks he's honoring the pain by revisiting it. In reality, he's paying a daily toll on a road that leads nowhere. The first act of AMOR FATI is to end that game. The parallel life doesn't exist, never existed, and every minute spent looking at it is a minute stolen from the only life that's yours. Did you close that door? Then comes the test, and I'm warning you, this test is the heaviest thing Nietzsche ever wrote. Third step. Face the test of the eternal return. Nietzsche proposes a thought experiment. Imagine a demon appears in your loneliest night and says, "This life, exactly as you have lived it, you will have to live again and again, innumerable times. Every joy and every pain, every humiliation and every victory, all in the same order and sequence without changing a comma for all eternity." Question: would you throw yourself to the ground, gnash your teeth, and curse the demon? Or would you answer, "You are a god, and never have I heard anything more divine"? This test is not a theory about the universe. It's a measuring device. It measures your real relationship with your life, without the usual discounts and excuses. Because most of us live tolerating our own lives, on the silent promise that someday it will turn into a different one. That's the great modern myth of someday. Someday I'll start. Someday it'll get better. Someday the real life begins. The eternal return rips that crutch away. What if it were this one, exactly this one, forever? The question pins you against the wall. What weight are you carrying that you would need to make peace with if you knew you'd carry it eternally? What would you need to change today, right now, to be able to say yes to that demon? Notice, the question seems to be about the past, but it's a weapon aimed at the present. Because there's a second hidden effect in this test, and it's even more powerful. If every moment returns eternally, then no moment is disposable. That random Tuesday you crossed on autopilot, waiting for life to start, it also returns infinite times. The eternal return turns every ordinary hour into something final. You're not killing time anymore, you're carving eternity, whether you notice it or not. Whoever understands this stops living like a rough draft. There is no rough draft. Every day is already the final version. And now, with this test in hand, we reach the step that knocks down the last defense. Fourth step. See the invisible chain. Here is Nietzsche's most powerful and least understood argument. You said you wanted to erase your worst day. Fine. But pay attention to what you'd be erasing along with it. Everything in you is tied to everything. The person you are today, the strength you have, the sensitivity you have, the people you've met, the paths that opened, all of it passed in some way through that day. Not because the day was good, but because life is a chain where each link pulls the next. Ripping a link out of the middle doesn't fix the chain. It undoes the whole thing. If you erased your worst pain, you'd erase along with it the person who was formed crossing through it. Your depth today was dug by it. Your ability to recognize other people's pain was born there. Nietzsche sums this up in a challenge. You have never said yes to a single joy without saying yes, along with it, to all the pains that made it possible. If you ever wanted one single good moment of your life to come back, you wanted, without knowing it, everything to come back. All things are chained together, entangled, in love with each other. Loving any piece of your life honestly forces you, sooner or later, to make peace with the whole. Run the test right now in your head. Take the best moment of your life, the happiest day, the most important person, the achievement that filled your chest. Now trace the path back to it, honestly. I guarantee you, at some point on that path, you'll hit a loss, a closed door, a pain that knocked you off course. If that door hadn't slammed in your face, you'd never have turned the corner where your life actually began. That doesn't make the slammed door hurt less, but it reveals something resentment hides from you. Your joy and your pain are not enemies living in separate neighborhoods. They are partners on the same construction site, and they always were. And if everything is chained together, the final question appears: what do you actually do with the darkest link in the chain? We've reached the turn. Fifth step. Turn the wound into raw material. Come back with me to that dark room from the beginning. Nietzsche, blind with pain, vomiting, alone, rejected, ignored. Here's the detail that changes everything. He did not write his work despite that pain. He wrote it from it. His philosophy carries the mark of the illness on every page. It was the illness that ripped him out of the safe career and threw him into the wandering life where he thought the freest thoughts of his century. It was the loneliness that forced him to talk so deeply with himself that he came back with ideas no one had ever had. He looked at his own ruin and made a decision that is the secret heart of AMOR FATI. Since this is mine, it will serve me. His pain became a lens, became a method, became a body of work. And he left it in writing with the pride of a man who won. I am grateful to my long sickness. It gave me eyes the healthy do not have. Now bring this home, your worst memory, the one from the start of the video. AMOR FATI doesn't ask you to say it was good. It asks something far more interesting. That you stop treating it as a hole in your story and start treating it as a quarry. What was mined out of you there? What strength did you only discover because you had to? What shallowness died that day? Who can you truly understand today because you went through that? You didn't choose the wound, but the wound gave you materials that intact people don't have. The question of AMOR FATI is not, "Why did this happen to me?" That question has no answer and never will. The question is, what do I build with it? The first question keeps you kneeling at the crash site. The second one lifts you up. And notice how this flips the power dynamic. As long as your worst memory is just something that happened to you, it owns you. It decides when to show up, how much to hurt, what to ruin. The moment it becomes raw material, ownership changes hands. Now you decide what happens with it. The event stays the same. The owner changed. And now the loop closes. At the beginning, I asked you to hold on to your worst memory, and I promised you'd see it differently. Here's what changed. That memory is not a defect in your story. It is, whether you like it or not, a foundation. You were built, in part, on top of it. Your depth, your empathy, your resilience, your radar for fake people, your urgency to live. Pick whichever is true for you. Something in you exists only because of it. Being grateful for the worst day of your life is not thanking it for what it did to you. It's recognizing what you did with it. It's the difference between being that day's permanent victim and being the author of what came after. The day was its. The after is yours. And AMOR FATI is exactly that. Signing your name as the author of your entire life, including the chapters you didn't write, because only then do you gain the power to write the next ones. Nietzsche has a phrase for this, maybe the most beautiful one he ever wrote. Become who you are. You don't become who you are despite your history. You become who you are by sculpting your history, hammer in one hand and your own scars in the other. The marble doesn't choose its cracks, but the sculptor decides what they become. And understand something, this doesn't happen all at once. AMOR FATI is not an enlightenment that descends on a Sunday afternoon and fixes everything. It's a practice, and like every practice, it starts out clumsy. In the beginning, you'll manage to say yes to the small pains and freeze on the big ones. Normal. Nietzsche spent his whole life on it, and there were days when his own formula weighed more than he could carry. The measure of progress is not never feeling anger at the past again. It's noticing that the anger visits, but no longer lives there. It's catching yourself telling your own story in a new way, where you stop being the character things happen to and become the narrator who decides what they mean. So I leave you with the demon's test, now that you have the tools. If this life, exactly this one, came back infinite times, what would you need to do, start in today, to answer, "Let it come"? Don't answer me. Answer yourself. But answer for real. And if this video touched that memory, if at some point you felt the wound and the strength at the same time, write 2 words in the comments. AMOR FATI. It's your way of saying, I'm done prosecuting the past, and from today on, I claim authorship of the rest. I read every single one, and I'll know exactly what you meant. If the video helped you look at your story differently, drop a like, because that's how it reaches someone else who's trapped in the parallel life. And subscribe to the channel, Because every week we take an idea like this one, kept by philosophy for over a century, and use it to crack modern life wide open. Next week, there's another uncomfortable mirror waiting for you. Until then, one task, small and serious. Tonight, choose one thing, just one, that exists in you and that only exists because of what hurt you. Name it. Write it on paper if you need to. That's the first brick of AMOR FATI. Not loving the pain, but recognizing in writing what you built with it. The rest we build from here on out, one yes at a time.